right, welcome into Gridiron Icon this week, and this is a fun one because I'm going to fanboy just a little bit. I watched this other guy, my fellow podcaster, and look, let's be honest, as a guy named Stacy, I not only have long admired the podcast at Steeler Nation hosted by this gentleman, but God damn, he's got the greatest name in the business, Stryker from Steeler Nation Podcast. Welcome in, my friend. It is so fun to have you on here to chop it up about the Steelers.
Well, thank you so much, Stacy. I appreciate being on here. And I was lucky to be born with this name. This is my surname and my namesake. And growing up in a divorced household, I was the only male in that part living with my mom and my sister. So I always went by Stryker.
My God, we didn't even talk about this off the air. We have the same life, single mom,
Yep.
3 kids. My mom, I'm the oldest. I don't know where you fit in the birth order, but
yeah,
she looked at me and went, Stacy, and I went, really? It's grown on me. Story for another day. But my gosh, man, greatest name in the business. I think it deserves its own show, the Stryker Show. But,
well, it does have. It has a couple shows. I got a vidcast. I got a podcast. I got Q&As. We do the Twitter Spaces now. I mean, we're trying to figure out all sorts of stuff. The Instagram quick inside slants. Whatever we can get up on YouTube is always fun.
That's fantastic. I didn't even know that. Look, if you're a Steelers fan, and might I say, I am on the West Coast, you are on the East Coast.
Correct.
But up here in the Pacific Northwest, when you go out to any kind of sports bar here, I don't know if there's another team that travels as well as the Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So if you're a Steelers fan watching and listening right now, why don't you know Stryker? Hook up with Steeler Nation, man. I'm sure most of them are. They're rabid out here.
They are. And it's great to travel out and see Steeler fans everywhere because I like to go to away games as well. It's part of Steeler Nation heritage because there's a lot of transplanted people from our generation from the 70s that had to move out of Steeltown when all the plants shut down and started popping up franchises all across the U.S., which created Steeler Nation in every state.
It's iconic. Look, as a guy who's a unabashed Rams fan, has been my entire life, and tries to stay neutral, unless we're talking about the world champion Los Angeles Rams.
Congratulations!
I'm getting some mileage out of that one, by the way.
I enjoy it. That's
waited my whole life.
Championship.
You've had a few, so I know.
Yeah.
You've had a few.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the most iconic football franchises, but forget that, scratch it, sports franchises. The Rooneys and what the Steelers do is dynamic. So it's really fun to connect with you, have you on the show, another Pittsburgh Steeler guy. Always welcome at the table when we're talking about NFL football. So
nice.
I'm going to jump right into this thing because obviously you have a very rabid fan base and you guys are making the news. Let's start with the obvious.
Okay.
Big Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Are we really going to watch a National Football League game next year without Big Ben? I mean, 17 years. This is crazy, man. What's the impact in Steeler Nation?
It was time for Big Ben to retire.
Okay.
Actually, when he got injured in 2019, it's kind of like a parallel back when Terry Bradshaw also injured his elbow in 1982 or 83, I think. And it never really recovered from it. He was never able to come back from that injury. Ben had a great run in 2020. First 10 games, 12 games, I think we were like 10 or 12-0. And then he got tweaked. He got banged up. His arm strength dropped, and he really couldn't complete passes past the line of scrimmage. And that happened again, unfortunately, last year as well. Started a little hotter around week 8 to 10. He lost his depth, couldn't throw down the middle of the field. He's only hitting the sidelines, the edges, and the right there in front of him within 8 yards. So we could see the writing on the wall. As a Steeler fan, I love the guy. Obviously the most talented quarterback I've ever seen in a black and gold jersey, but it was time for him to move on.
Wow. Yeah. You can't argue with that. I watch Steelers football too. And Ben, the last couple seasons, it was rough. There was some argument there that, hey, he's lost a lot of weapons. Antonio Brown's gone. Some of these other guys are gone. But it was obvious that Ben was near the end. And I got to tell you, he had some of the funniest quotes this last year or two where he was comparing himself to Tom Brady. Like, yeah, I don't eat avocado ice cream.
Yeah.
No shit,
Right.
man.
Oh,
That
geez.
was great. But emotionally, Steeler Nation, they're okay with it. I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna revere Ben in retirement.
It is. Yeah. It's not like anybody's pining for Ben. I mean, you get a couple inklings or somebody's like, oh, Ben's gonna be coming back. Oh, he'll be like Tom Brady and unretire. I'm like, please don't.
No.
Ben's done. He knows he's done. Especially the way the greatest, one of the greatest moments I've ever seen, Stacey, was sitting in Pittsburgh in the second to last game of the season, watching them play the Cleveland Browns, watching Ben, play one of his best games just to make sure he could win against the Browns at home for his last home game. And then just sitting there in the stadium essentially for an hour after the game, just agog, watching this guy just soak it all in, walk around the stadium, high five people, come back, sit down at the bench, look around. Family comes out and meets him, hugs his family, and walks down the tunnel with his whole family in hand in hand. And that's just an iconic moment in the perfect way for him to go off into retirement, and which will end in a golden jacket.
Man, I agree. He'll be a first ballot. I mean,
Yeah.
It's nuts what he's done. His numbers, 2 Super Bowls, give me a break.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, man, he's an amazing story. I know he's kind of been polarizing. He had a rough start with some legal stuff at the beginning of his career when he was a young guy crashing the bike, the whole 10 yards. But the guy turned it around. I mean, he's like the All-American story. He turned it around. Like you said, those images of him with his family in that last game were they're pretty special. I mean, they're pretty special.
Yeah, and I had an interview with Ed Bouchette, who's a famous writer for Pittsburgh media. He was with the Post-Gazette. He also writes at The Athletic and things like that now currently. He stated in 2010, after the Super Bowl that they lost, Ben Roethlisberger seeked him out, specifically walked up to him and said to him, he said, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to let you know that I apologize for the way I've treated you being a young man up until this point. I just want you to know that from this point on, I will be a different person. And I just interviewed him like 2 years ago. He said from that point on, he was completely different, very approachable, very polite. Like before that, he was very kind of like felt he was better than the media. Didn't want to really, very aloof, but also had his problems. He was just very immature. It took him a while to mature. Some people never mature, but fortunately he did. And it was better for the city. It was better for him personally and better for the team.
Big time credit to his wife. I'm sure she had a phenomenal impact on his life, as a lot of these players do. That's awesome. Well, good for Ben. Unbelievable career. I'll tell you, for me, the big Ben moment is in the Super Bowl against the Cardinals when he hits that throw. To this day, it will stop me in my tracks if I'm watching an NFL films, and I just sit there thinking that's one of the sickest things I've ever seen on a football field in a clutch moment. And
they still can't give an MVP to Ben Roethlisberger.
It's weird.
Which is, don't get me wrong. I thought that Holmes was Santonio Holmes was fantastic. I thought he was the MVP of the playoffs. I thought he made a big play and big touchdown in every single game in the playoffs to make sure that they won each one of those games. But by far in that last game, that was all Ben. And there was one other receiver he threw to on that drive. That was Nate Washington, who ended up leaving for Tennessee on a big contract after that year. But
that's right.
it wasn't just Antonio Holmes that whole last drive. We also threw to somebody else, and Ben knew who was open.
It was an unreal throw. It was sick. He should have been MVP. Felt like a little weird NFL punishment thing. I don't know. But
Hines Ward gets the one, though. Hines Ward deserved it, too. I mean, Ben's numbers were horrible his first Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah. It's good stuff. No, great memory, and kudos to him. Kudos to you guys at Steeler Nation. It's got to be tough to lose a legendary quarterback. You've been through a couple times. You mentioned Bradshaw, so amazing stuff. So talking quarterbacks, as a guy that's following the team at the epicenter of that team, I mean, that quarterback room looks different, Stryker.
It does.
Different. Mason Rudolph, how are we feeling out there? We'll get into the other two guys, but Mason Rudolph, the starter right now.
Yeah, so Mason Rudolph is the most polarizing man in Pittsburgh right now. I mean, he is essentially
Cleveland too.
He's Pittsburgh's Baker Mayfield to put the fine point on it. Because like you talk to Browns fans, they're like, half of them couldn't stand Baker Mayfield. The other half loved Baker Mayfield for being able to beat the Steelers in the playoffs. I mean, Steeler fans loved Baker Mayfield because we knew no matter how good that team was, the Steelers could compete and win against the Browns every time if Baker Mayfield was their quarterback. So now with Mason Rudolph in the same situation, I still think like he's been given a little bit, a bit too much blame as far as for being maybe not a great quarterback because he's never really had the reins. And the year that Ben went down, he got hurt twice that season, tried to rush back the one time from a concussion, ended up getting nailed in the head by Myles Garrett as well with his own helmet, which is kind of like the epitome of kind of his career, where every time he thinks he's like finally going to pull it off and do something, it's like, bam, he's like his own worst enemy. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult room. And for me also, Stacey, from last year, just watching him compete with Dwayne Haskins, and you had Rudolph, who's had 3 years under his belt in the system, against Dwayne Haskins, who was just learning the system. And they were here just in that first year. It was Haskins' athleticism leading to scores more often than it was Rudolph in the preseason. And that's why was really interested to see how that competition would be with 4 years under Rudolph's belt and a year and a half with Haskins, to see how that competition kind of heats up, because that might end up being it, because now with Mitch Trubisky in the house, he's obviously getting paid like a starter. You expect that he's going to win the job. He's still the highest drafted player the Steelers have, a number 2 pick in the first round, with Haskins being a number 15 pick in the first round versus a 3rd rounder that the Steelers got, who's now their starter. But you know, I'm all for open competition. May the best man win. I mean, Rudolph still does have a nice looking career at Oklahoma when he was a quarterback there. He put up great numbers.
Yeah,
he has a strong arm. He can throw deep. Ben couldn't throw deep. We're like, hell, at least he can throw down the field, hit the 50-yard passes again. But yeah, it's just going to be an open competition. But in all honesty, I do not see Rudolph winning this competition. And if he doesn't win the competition, I don't see him being in Pittsburgh on their roster when the season starts.
Wow. You think it could be at OTA's training camp, Rudolph's moved?
Yeah. What happens is if we get to training camp and Trubisky takes it over and Rudolph starts getting snippy, because he's been like waiting for his moment to shine. He's like, this is my moment now. Schobert just said, I'm the quarterback. Here we go. Bup, bup, bup. And then boom, we bring in Trubisky. And then if he outplays him and if Haskins outplays him, he's going to be a curmudgeon. And it's going to be in a situation where like, okay, we'll just keep Haskins as our backup. See you, dude. You know, I just see that playing out, especially if we draft a quarterback, because the drafted quarterback is going to be the 3rd stringer. It's going to carry the clipbook and learn for a year, maybe 2 years, as long as we have Trubisky. And then at that point, you have to do what the Philadelphia Eagles do, which is develop a quarterback and get rid of him for draft picks, or make that guy the starter and get rid of Trubisky after his 2nd year.
I mean, I'm telling you, you're hitting on, I think, one of the more interesting off-season 2022 regular season stories of the NFL, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you brought it up, 2 first-round picks. Yep. Rudolph was no slouch. He was an earlier round pick and has waited patiently, been a good soldier. Yep. What is the feeling out there in Pittsburgh? I'll ask you about both of the guys. Sure. Dwayne Haskins, I mean, totally crashes and burns in Washington.
Right.
Gets cut. No one wants him. Tomlin's, there he is again. Excellent talent evaluator. Brings him in. What's the word on the street out there, the common Steeler fan?
I was really excited when Haskins first came to the team. I live in the DC area. DC is a dumpster fire, an absolute dumpster fire in every single way you can explain it. Their front office, their marketing. I work with their marketing department. It turns over every 3 years because nobody wants to work with that front office. They are absolutely horrible human beings.
Yeah,
and the coaching staff is always thrown under the bus if anything happens. And then even that draft, when Haskins was drafted, the day they drafted Haskins, half of the franchise didn't even want him. How are you going to succeed in an environment when you're a brand new quarterback into the league and half of your organization isn't behind you. That breeds resentment. That is why he was not on. As soon as they started moving away from him, he's like, screw you guys. I'm not showing up to meetings. I'm not working away, putting myself out for you guys anymore. They end up getting rid of him in the second year of his contract on it for a rookie 15th pick in the draft. When does that ever happen? Steelers pick him up for nothing. Hell, we got to utilize an original round tender, which is not the first round tender, which is about 3 times the price of what we pay for the original round tender for the restricted free agency, which still equates to a first round draft pick if somebody wants to sign him this year from us. So that's what happened this year. So like the talent level on this guy is fantastic. I saw him play in the preseason all last year. I thought on the field, he was the best quarterback on the field because Ben only played 1 drive. He scored a touchdown on his drive. Sure. Great. I mean, we all understood Ben's going to do good. But Rudolph seemed like he struggled with the offense, and Haskins, when the offense was struggling, could still make the plays, extend the plays, get to the edge, move with his feet, and make plays downfield. And that was really fun to watch in the preseason. So as far as for Haskins, it's one of those no-lose situations if you're a Pittsburgh Steeler. We threw, it was a 15th pick in the draft, all the talent in the world, Ohio State guy. Like Steelers love their Ohio State guys.
Oh yeah.
And if you go to college in Ohio, for some reason you end up going to Pittsburgh instead of Cincinnati or Cleveland.
They love them.
We love our Ohio State guys, and we get to have like one of the best quarterbacks they've ever had in for nothing. We signed him to a league minimum futures contract and now restricted free agency contract. I mean, it's a no-lose situation because if he becomes something freaking awesome, we got him for nothing. If he becomes nothing, who cares? It didn't cost us a thing.
That's right.
Like a no-lose situation. But I'm excited for it. There is one aspect, though, I have to talk about for Haskins, and there is a side of him that Aditi Kinklebaugh and a lot of these people are trying to pull in that whole he's a malcontent. He's not a team player. He's
goes
a
to
me
strip
first
joints.
guy.
Yeah,
So,
they're really trying to smear the kid.
the one game where he was the backup for the Detroit game, he came out in the first practice and he had his phone out and he was like checking some things on his phone in between his reps. And they're like, he's so unprofessional. The guy is horrible. I was talking to other people next to me and they said they couldn't believe this guy. I'm like, really? It's like, that's the hill you want to die on with Dwayne Haskins in a game where he knows he's probably not going to play in, but he's excited and he would be ready if he got in that game. Honestly, like, don't give me the Mark Madden and Aditi Kinklebaugh and Andrew One Trick Filipponi, like all those guys. The sky is always falling in Pittsburgh. They're ready to jump off of one of the 230 some bridges, and it's not as bad as it seems.
God, that's good to hear. I mean, it's amazing what we do to these young kids. Turn them into millionaires. I mean, Dan Snyder, apparently he played high school football with Dan Snyder's kid. I heard a story. I don't know if that's even true. I cannot corroborate that. Yeah. But, he makes a few mistakes. He's not enthused. He goes to the world's worst franchise in the NFL right now, and everybody wants to cruise. I think it's brilliant.
Other than the Browns.
Other than that, yeah. I expect a Steelers guy to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Well, hey, I gotta throw this out.
Yeah.
I think that Washington was probably really disappointed, had a company-wide meeting and cried when the Jags finally got rid of Urban Meyer because he was doing a great job distracting everybody from the Washington two hot messes, man.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
But yeah, Cleveland. Oh, Cleveland. I did not cue you up for Cleveland, but we should talk about that in a minute. Okay, Dwayne Haskins, I think, has potential. I think
I do too.
Another Mike Tomlin.
I love his potential.
Yeah. Mitch Trubisky. This is a guy that's been vilified, spent a year behind Josh Allen in Buffalo. Yeah. Oh, Chicago was so stupid to draft this guy. What say you? I mean, this kid has talent.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, he went to a bad Bears organization, number 2 in the draft. He's a pocket mobile guy. He's a mobile guy. The guy can actually move and break the pocket and kill you with his feet. He can get to the edge and throw on the run. And he took that horrible Bears franchise that thrust him in the starting role in his first year. By the second year, he won 11 games with that franchise. I mean, that's what you've got to put in perspective with a guy like this. And yeah, they had some turnover with the coaching staff then toward the end, and he leaves. But all of the success that team had was really because of Mitchell Trubisky. And a guy like he's come to town already, and it's incredible. Like, the city has already fallen in love with Mitchell Trubisky and his wife, because his wife is like, I love Pittsburgh. And then they're like, this is the greatest city ever. It's like, yeah, you lived in Chicago and Buffalo, probably the only two places colder than Pittsburgh in the wintertime. This is like freaking sunny Florida to you guys. So it's like, so they're enjoying it. They're enjoying that it's actually like a tech center with Google Net. Though, I mean, there's a ton to do in Chicago. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, but yeah, Chicago's fun.
Buffalo's a small town. It's like Green Bay. Yeah. Like there's a lot more tech now. There's a lot more great places to eat and drink in Pittsburgh. It's a really, really fun, picturesque town, even though it does get pretty cold in the winter.
Oh, I spent time in all three of those cities you just mentioned. Yeah. All three of them in past lives. Pittsburgh, my favorite. Sorry, I don't want to offend anybody. Look, I do actually really like Chicago and Buffalo too.
I do. I love Chicago. I love Chicago too.
But Pittsburgh, my grandfather was from Pittsburgh too, so there's it's kind of the heartstrings thing. But Pittsburgh's just a really neat, fun city. Lots of good food, people. Plus, my guy Aaron Donald is from there, so I gotta go. Yeah, the king of Pittsburgh right now, even though he plays for my Rams. So
if only Pittsburgh was allowed to keep the best Pitt player every year on their team. Like, they should just make that for all of the teams. Like, you get to pick one player off the college team. Everybody else gets to go in the draft.
I got to tell you, man, I was very worried that the rumors with Aaron Donald wanting to retire and see his kids, and he's always in Pittsburgh.
Right.
I was very worried, and I still have moments of it where I'm thinking, how long before it starts floating that he wants to play for the Steelers? I like it.
Yeah. I would love to have him. But he's interior, right? He doesn't play edge. He's not on the end. So, but if you put him between Tuitt and Hayward, and then you have Watt coming in off the edge behind these guys,
together. That'd be stupid.
He and frickin' Hayward playing next year. Hayward put together his best season last year. And Hayward doesn't get the respect that he should. And this is a guy that plays 3-4 end and gets double-digit sacks a season, knocks down 10, 11, 12 balls a season. I mean, the guy is just a play maker. And he's still turning around and making tackles 30 yards downfield. The guy doesn't have a quit in his system. It's like, you put two guys like that next to each other, look out. That would just be unfair.
Oh, absolutely
unfair. You have to roll out the other way every time if you had a court. And unfortunately, that's the side Watt's coming from.
Yeah, just put TJ on one side, and we moved Aaron around this year on the edges. Just put TJ one side, Aaron on the other, and have Hayward and Tuitt coming up the middle. That's scary. Let's not give Aaron any ideas, okay? We want to keep him. I mean, okay. So before we move off the quarterbacks, I do want to talk to you a little bit about Steelers NFL draft forthcoming, but do you think that there's any chance the Steelers are taking a look at the homegrown product there in Kenny Pickett? And then there's been rumors that Tomlin really loves Malik Willis out of Liberty. Any rumors out there, my Steeler man?
There's no question that Mike Tomlin loves Malik Willis.
Oof.
No question. I think if he's on the board at 20, he will be a Pittsburgh Steeler. There's no doubt. In my mind. But the Steelers are doing their due diligence. It's not just Pickett. It's not just Willis. We were at Matt Corral's pro day. We were at Sam Howell's pro day at UNC. They just took wine and dine Desmond Ridder in Cincinnati a couple nights ago. So, like, they are really doing their due diligence with the quarterbacks in this draft. And, like, the dark horse, like, it might just not just between Willis and Pickett, though. I think Pickett's by far the best NFL-ready quarterback of the group. I don't like his tiny hands, but still the most NFL-ready quarterback. Has the size, the ratio, the numbers. He's got it all going on. The arm strength. But the dark horses right now that I'm really starting to look more into is Matt Corral at Ole Miss and Desmond Ridder in Cincy. It's like these are also very, very athletic guys, very accurate throwers as well, and better students of the game, I think, which would be a lot quicker to be able to learn systems. So to me, seem just like smarter guys. But not saying that Pickett or Malik Willis aren't smart people, because they definitely are in their own right.
Sure.
But for me, just for football IQ, I think that it might be a Corral or a Ritter, and that it might not have to be in the first round. It might be in the second round when the Steelers nab one of those guys.
Yeah, you got the number 52 pick. I mean, top 50, 60 players, one of those guys might be sitting there.
Right.
Wow. Then, of course, there's the kid from, what is it, Nevada, Carson Strong, that a lot of people think are a little bit of a dark horse too. So
right. And some people, and that's the problem this year, Stacey. It's we go into drafts saying where everybody knows this is the best quarterback in the draft. This quarterback is going to go number 1 in the draft. This quarterback's going to go in the top 5 in the draft. This year, we are 4 weeks away from the draft? 4 weeks away from the draft.
Creeping up.
Nobody even has a consensus on who the best quarterback is between 4 guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be any of those 4 guys going in the first round. People still say Howell could go in the first round. People say Strong could go in the first round. It is anybody's guess on what people like. And the problem is it's because all of these quarterbacks in any other draft would be good picks, but not top picks. And they're all kind of here. Yep. So it's like these are the guys that would go second and third round in most drafts. And since quarterback is such a position that is needed to have a franchise around and to succeed and win in the NFL, that position itself always gets elevated. So it might be not out of the crazy realm of 3 quarterbacks still going in the top 10, but in most drafts, those 3 guys wouldn't go in the top 3 round. They'd be in the, second round, third round, fourth round range, in my opinion, in other drafts.
God, you and I so agree on that. I don't think any of these guys are franchise building, blow up type, amazing.
Yeah, I think they can develop into it. I just don't think that any of the guys in this draft this year can be thrust into a starting job as a rookie and be expected to win. The only one that I think that will have the best chance would be Malik Willis, and that's just strictly due to his athleticism, being able to make plays when things break down. But outside of that, that's everybody else I think can learn to be possibly a great quarterback. Have a couple of years. Aaron Rodgers had a couple of years there behind Favre. Before he started shooting dick pics there for the Jets. And then,
God, was that weird. Well, that hasn't floated, or was it Jen Sturger? I mean, he's penis pops. Like, what? Come on, Brett, we love you. Don't do this.
Yeah,
that was weird. That was, and it's funny, man, because you bring up a good point. We've seen some of these quarterbacks get overdrafted lately. I mean, what's going on with Trey Lance in San Francisco? I think we know. We've seen, Jordan Love at the Packers, who's now sitting behind Aaron Rodgers again. You see this kind of stuff. The Steelers traditionally are not the kind of organization that makes that mistake. No, they know right where to pick somebody.
It's also because the Steelers don't know how to draft quarterbacks.
Whoa, from a Steeler Nation guy. I wasn't going to say it.
I mean, come on. I mean, who are our first round draft picks in history? You got like Bradshaw, you got Mark Malone, and you got friggin' Ben Roethlisberger. Those are your only 3 first-round draft picks ever in the history of the Steelers in the Super Bowl era, I should say, at least, because I have no idea what happened before. This is before Noel became the head coach. My stuff goes hazy. Of course, I know a little bit, but man, it wasn't worth watching because we were the worst team in the NFL, never making the playoff. We made a couple playoffs, but we never won a playoff game from 1933 until the Immaculate Reception was our first playoff win in 1972.
You're giving Cleveland Brown fans hope.
Exactly. Yeah. And in another 20 years, you guys might win some Super Bowls.
You can suck, and then all of a sudden, the next 100 years, you're really good.
Right?
All right, man. Okay. We got to talk about what the Steelers are good at and known for. Let's talk linebackers.
Oh, yeah.
The guys that I love.
We could have a whole show on linebackers.
Oh, my God. I was so tempted with you, man. I was so tempted. I thought we'd start macro and we'll have another show.
Right.
Wow. Miles Jack joins up with Devin Bush in what's got to be one of the most athletic linebacking corps. Hello, TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year. Wow. This linebacking corps suddenly looks very different. What's the impact on defense, man?
Well, here's something that I at least don't want to pass over before we move on to Miles Jack, and that was the Steelers picking up the previous inside linebacker from the Jacksonville Jaguars the year before, and Joe Schobert,
Good
who's
point.
a good inside linebacker in his own right. Now, Joe Schobert does not have the coverage ability that a Miles Jack has, but I thought that the inside linebackers took the biggest hit last year just because we lost Tyson Alualu in the second game. Tuitt never returned to the field all year. So we were playing with only one of our starters and the front three. And those inside linebackers were taking the brunt of the blocking scheme. So they really didn't get to be open and make plays like they would if Alualu was in the middle and Tuitt would be to their left, because then they'd have a little bit more space to make their plays, read, come and hit the holes harder. That kind of is unfortunately was the way it worked out, but still Miles Jack is by far still a more athletic player than Joe Schobert. And I'm excited to see him as an all-around player, somebody that we can still have paired with Bush, because Bush is still athletic to cover tight ends, still athletic to cover running backs and slot at times, which is what is asked for in any zone defense when everybody's like, why did they put the linebacker on a wide receiver? Oh, they're the dumbest team ever. It's called zone defense. It's what happens in zone defense, and people exploit it at times. It happens. Okay. So calm down. Okay. Yeah, but yes, I'm all for. I'm looking forward to seeing what Miles Jack can do with Bush next to him. And Bush also having that whole year of rehab. He was not the same guy. He was dealing with a groin injury all last year also, and that sapped a lot of his speed.
Yeah, no, it was no question. And Bush has got Bush and Jack and TJ to it. Good. Great. This is just continuing the long line of Pittsburgh Steeler linebacker universes that it's just unbelievable.
And Highsmith's an up-and-comer as well. He was the guy we picked from Charlotte in the third round 2 years back when we didn't have that first round draft pick. Now he's a second year as a starter, put together a solid year last year. I expect him to be close to 10 sacks this season.
So fair to say then, from Steeler Nation guy here, that the Steelers are really good at putting together linebacking cores. The quarterback thing, well,
right. We're not the Chargers. The Chargers always have a great, from like Mel Blount on, they always have great. They had they had Rivers and Breeze on the same damn team, for gosh sakes. Bonkers. It's like this team always has like the best freaking quarterbacks.
Yeah. Scrappy guys too. They had Johnny Unitas for 1 year. They managed to pull that off. Yeah. Wasn't his best year, but hey.
They had Humphreys when they made the Super Bowl the 1 year when they beat our team and the AFC Championship team. He was a good quarterback as well. Yeah. And now they got freaking Herbert. So it's that's a team that always has quarterbacks. But the odd thing is they don't win Super Bowls. I think they won an AFC Championship once, but they just haven't won Super Bowls.
They couldn't win. They couldn't get there with Dan Fouts. And that receiving core, I know you're a man who loves his receivers. Yeah, they couldn't get there under Don Coryell. Okay.
Right.
Flipping the script to the running game, Nadia Harris. Man, what an impressive rookie year. Any concern out there in Pittsburgh that they're going to wear him out?
Well, I think
he carried the ball 300 plus times, right?
Yeah. To go with his 70-some receptions, he set the Steelers record last year, 2 records for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a rookie. He had most yards running by a Steelers rookie. He also had most receptions by a Steeler rookie. That includes receivers, tight ends, everybody. More receptions and running yardage than any Steeler rookie. And the guy is a playmaker. And that is why I will go to my grave laughing in the face of people like Mel Kiper that says you never draft a running back in the first round. And because my answer to him is, where do you find a running back like Najee Harris with his great character, his ability to catch and run, and his ability to never put one of those footballs on the ground with that gigantic amount of touches that he had? He is the definition of ball security. You cannot find a guy like that anywhere but the first round. And I'm glad that the Steelers used that pick, because honestly, he was the best running back prospect, in my opinion, in the past 5 years, even including this year.
He was incredible at Bama. Oh my God.
Absolute incredible prospect. Yeah. And for the fact that the Steelers were able to pick him up like down around the 20s as well was just an absolute, it's a godsend. I mean, the Steelers are still picking up great talent, and they are still always drafting in the 20 range. I mean, to get TJ Watt where he felt like 25 the 1 year, 23 or 25. I mean, it's just like we're lucky that our scouting department does their due diligence on players, because we end up getting at least good talent most of the time where we're picking, even though we're picking toward the bottom of the draft.
There's no question about it. I mean, they've been doing this for decades. And look, it's
Right.
probably a little bit of a sore subject. I don't know.
No, go ahead.
But look at where they got Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, it's the 6th rounder.
It's nothing. And look, love or hate the guy, he's definitely Vontaze Burfict, I think, changed his life with that hit.
Well,
frankly, I don't know. I might be overstepping on that one.
Well, I think, it was a big hit. It was definitely concussion inducing, but that's, Montez
probably
Burfict,
not.
My problem with that guy is I don't think he should have been in the league as long as he should have, because the guy was targeting players, and it wasn't just Antonio Brown. He was trying to hurt people. Every time he was on the field, he was trying to alligator roll a leg or go straight down at a knee or target a head. The guy was the absolute worst thing to happen in the NFL, and that is the reason why a person that had first-round talent like Montez Burfict went undrafted. And it's because nobody thought he'd be able to keep his cool in the NFL, and that's exactly what happened to him.
And they were right. Yeah, ended up on the Raiders and then cut out of the league.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's still hell of a talent, smart place to pick him up. And the Steelers see those kind of guys, and that's one thing. Small school guys that are excellent route runners, that have excellent hand positioning. Not necessarily like drops don't really matter as long as the technique for the hand positioning is there. And what I talk about is making the window, thumbs inside, turning to face the ball instead of trying to one arm it all the time, or try to or sandwich the ball like this. Yeah, you always either pinkies in or fingers in like this. And that was Antonio Brown to a T.
Ooh.
And Deontay Johnson as well. Like I loved his college film. And for his college film, I thought he was the single greatest receiver I've ever seen at breaking the line of scrimmage in press coverage. I've never seen a college player if you try to man up on Deontay Johnson and try to press him, he's going to make you look foolish in like 5 or 6 different ways. He can swim, he can spin, he can stutter hitch. Like the guy has so many different techniques just to go untouched at the line of scrimmage. And that's why he has the PFF metric for being the most open of any NFL wide receiver on their first break.
Wow.
Yeah, he's really amazing.
Bringing the stats. I love that, man. That's amazing. Get this guy a quarterback. So I know you're a wide receiver guy.
Right.
I think you played that when you were a kid. I played it when I was a kid.
Awesome.
Nowhere near Deontay Johnson.
I got the broken knuckles to prove it.
Oh, yeah. Every finger except my thumbs. Busted.
Right? I did my thumbs in basketball.
I did my back in basketball.
Oh,
That's a whole other story.
That's why I stopped playing.
I tell you, amen, my friend. But, okay, so sticking in the wide receiver room as a guy that loves them, the divas, the wide receivers.
Yep.
You guys lost Juju this year, which has been kind of rumored the last couple of years. Aside from your TikTok following going down, what's the overall emotion out there in Steeler Nation about losing Juju? I mean, he was loved.
He was. And he was Litzberg. He had a brand in Pittsburgh. He did stuff in the community where he'd be like, I got nothing going on today. Let's all meet down at the Triangle and we'll play dodgeball. Or let's go and help out these guys in the soup kitchen today, and then we'll play some video games afterward. And like that's the kind of guy he was. He built community within Pittsburgh. Now, from being I loved him as a receiver. I thought he made excellent combative catches. He was still able to rip off like 90-yard plays, even though he's not the fastest guy on the field. Yeah. But he's got that blend of strength and speed and intelligence, football IQ, and heart to just extend play, like diving backwards without it, like blindly at a first down marker, which would not have been a first down, and it would not have converted the third down unless he turned around and dove backward for another 3 yards. And like he was that kind of guy, like almost Hines Ward-esque, the way the guy put his body on the line to make plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the only problem was at this point, he's a slot receiver. You don't spend $10-12 million on a slot player. You just don't in the league. I mean, we kind of did last year. It was great to have him back for one more year with Ben. absolutely loved it. But in all honesty, he was a luxury, not a need for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. And when we're looking to rebuild, we can utilize that money in a lot of other ways, especially like we've been doing right now on defense, bringing in some good people, hopefully getting a safety here soon. Keep my fingers crossed for KZ or Honey Badger. Would love to see any of those playmaking safeties to stack them next to Fitzpatrick and look out. Absolutely look out.
That'd be lethal.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I'm excited for Juju, and this is kind of a new. He's a guy you can't help but root for. He's fantastic. It'll be interesting to see what Andy Reid does with him in Kansas City now that Tyreek's gone.
That's the thing that sucks, though. Like Juju's best year, he was with AB, and he's like, I'm going to go to play with Mahomes. I know I'm going to get the ball. I'm going to have Hill on the other side of me, just like I had an AB. I'm going to put up monster numbers on this 1-year contract, and I'm going to get paid this sick new wide receiver money, the 25 to 30 mil a year wide receiver money, like quarterback money now. So like that's what he was thinking. And then Hill's like, guys, I'm out. See ya. Peace. I'm going to Miami. And so like now he's like back in the situation where he doesn't have AB. He's got to be the guy. It's like now I don't even know if they were definitely planning to put him in the slot because Pringle left. Yeah. And I love Pringle. I wanted the Steelers to get Pringle because we needed a kick returner. I thought he's a way better receiver than Ray McLeod was, who just left and went with the Raiders, I believe. But he was supposed to be in that center slot between Kelsey, between Hill, having all the balls in the world, and now it's back like, well, you're the guy now.
you're number one again. You got McCall Hardman, Pringle.
Right. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him be their X receiver and be the guy getting the majority of the targets this season. But I think a playmaking quarterback like Mahomes will still give him a lot better options and better chances to make big plays than he would sticking in Pittsburgh for another year with the Trubisky or whoever the hell the quarterback is this season.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I'll throw out a dark horse combination prediction here. I would not be shocked if we learn that Julio Jones ends up in Kansas City.
Oh,
and then they can
smart.
Yeah, and then they can bump Juju inside, and Juju would eat.
They both eat. That would be the single best scenario.
Would that be something?
That is super. Yeah, if I was sitting there and I wanted to build, and plus you're paying way less for Julio Jones. You just had a crap year and got cut. Yep. So like, you're not, he's not getting Hill money.
Yeah.
He's getting over the Hill money.
Yeah.
Bring him in. Have him do well. And like, that's right. Everybody would eat there because I absolutely love Julio Jones. I think he's athletic, perfect hand positioning, a high point, and attacks that ball like just about nobody else that I've seen other than like Larry Fitzgerald. Like that type of way that just high pointing and attacking balls with those super soft hands, man. Absolutely.
Can't love it enough.
Yeah.
God, I love that over the hill,
this is the way my brain thinks.
I love it. I love it. You're made for this. Okay. I want to ask you a little bit about the draft, although you've teased us with some thoughts on it. Yeah. But before I do, who is the one Pittsburgh Steeler that we're not talking about that we should be entering this season? Is there a guy, a player?
Yeah. I'll give you one on offense. I'll give you one on defense.
Oh, look at you. Okay.
Guy on offense is a guy by the name of Pat Freiermuth. And he was the tight end that we took in the second round last year. Going into the second day of the draft on our Marathon Steeler Nation draft coverage that I do, I'm on the air is half hour before the draft, through the draft. No commercial breaks. We talk. We have different players and announcers and comedians that's coming in and off and having a great time with us. We're all Steeler fans and getting everybody's reaction when anybody's drafted. It's a lot of fun. And I was drinking a lot back then too, so I'd always crack a beer every time I toast a new Steeler coming over. But I'll get back on point. The second day of the draft, I said Steelers are probably going to go with a lineman here unless Pat Freiermuth is on the board. If Pat Freiermuth's on the board, he is the Steelers pick in the second round. And that is the only time I've ever been right in a draft pick. And to tell you the truth, I actually thought they were going to take ETN instead of Nadia Harris. I'm so glad they took Nadia Harris.
It was all the drinking, man. It was the drinking.
Yeah, right. But yeah, but Freiermuth was a Penn State guy, and he had the incredible statistics in Penn State as being a player that never dropped a football, or I think he dropped one football in his entire 4-year collegiate career inside the red zone. So like, this is a sure-handed guy that makes plays in the red zone and gets touchdowns. And we found that early in his career with Ben. So he had a 2-touchdown game about game 3 or game 4.
Wow.
Started to find his niche with Ben. And then unfortunately Ben got banged up again and then just had trouble delivering the ball and then had to try to get it out as fast as possible because he can't throw down the field anymore. But that's one of the places where Pat Freiermuth does excel. He's starting to get a little bigger bodied. He'll have a little bit more meat on his bones. He'll be a slightly better blocker, but he'll also be able to block and release and have a quarterback that can deliver that football to him down the seam and help cut in that middle of the field so people like Claypool on the edge can feast. And that's the stuff that I'd be looking forward to this year. But look for, because this is the guy, the Steelers have been looking for a tight end ever since they lost Heath Miller. And we have absolutely failed at trying to draft tight ends or trying to bring vets in. All the vets have not helped. The best one we had was Vance McDonald, and he was good for a year. Like we had one good year out of Vance McDonald, and then he started breaking down and having injuries in that. But one great year. Other than that, like this is our guy. This is the guy that finally we have replaced Heath Miller. He can do it all. He's an all-around great player, and I think he's going to really excel in the passing game this season on offense. So on defense.
Nice. So let's go D. I mean, that's a great pick. I didn't expect that answer. That's a good one.
Yeah, so this one will be a lot quicker because we've touched base on this already. We've been talking about the linebackers, and this is Alex Highsmith. And this is a guy out of Charlotte a couple years back where everybody's like, why are the Steelers picking a Charlotte guy on the edge? But he came in as the third in his rookie year. He was the third outside linebacker rotating with Watt and Bud Dupree and was already showing he can get after the quarterback. And last year, he was really starting to come on, especially toward the end of the season. He was starting to get his sacks. He was starting to get his quarterback pressures. And now with the full complement back, and you get the full defensive line back, it looks like our interior is going to be better. Hopefully a better strong safety. I mean, this defense is not going to be able to double anybody. So if he's going to be alone making plays, you're going to start hearing about Alex Highsmith.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. Steeler Nation. Okay. There's two great players, young guys too. Yeah. I mean, building blocks. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I want to jump into some classic Steeler power questions, but before we move there, really quickly, is there a guy you really like at number 20 for the Steelers? Named Malik Willis or not named Malik Willis?
Well, like I said,
anybody, have you dug into that at all?
A little bit. Now,
okay.
At 20, it's going to be an interesting situation. Like I said, I think Malik Willis is our Trump pick. If he's there at 20, he's the Steelers. Yeah. I don't see. It's just the way that we've gone after and looked at everybody with his athleticism, the way that we want a mobile quarterback. He's going to be the Steelers pick. Now,
I agree.
Set that aside. If he's not on the board, the value at that location of the draft is actually wide receiver, which is really good because the Steelers need 2 wide receivers this season because we only have Deontay Johnson and Claypool as the only returning wide receivers. We lost Ray. We lost Juju. We lost Wash. He's down in Dallas now.
Right. That's right.
Down on the farm, down on the ranch. So it's like we're replacing everybody on the position where the Steelers do a great job of drafting. And this year, being a receiver guy like you, like the top of this draft is sick at receiver.
Oh, God.
Like, this is a great wide receiver draft. If somebody like Willis is there with that height speed ratio, or Olave, our Ohio State guy that can come in and play the slot immediately, like these are the types of players that I really get excited about adding to the Pittsburgh Steelers in that spot. Say, like, as long as somebody like, oh gosh, is it Davis or Jones? That the big defensive lineman I know that we freaking love too. Guy for
Steelers are honing in on just where the rich get richer. Oh,
yeah. So when we look at that guy, or if one of the cornerbacks, one of the top cornerbacks drop, I don't think strong safety is going to be, even though that's a big need for us. I don't think that's 20 is the spot for it. Maybe 52, we'd be looking at it, but depending on who we pick up here, if we get one of the, like I said, Casey or Matthew, we're not even going to be worrying about a strong safety this season. But that's why I see like wide receiver. I think is probably the best bet. If you're going to put a Vegas line bet on the position we're going to be taking first, it's going to be wide receiver.
God, and you're right.
It's there.
It's there. I mean, it's
thick. It is thick at the top.
It is. I mean, you even got Drake London and the kid Jameson from Alabama who got injuries could still go in the first round.
Right.
The offensive line and the wide receivers in this draft are
Right.
bonkers.
Yeah, if
Just
tackle,
bonkers.
offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Like I saw Maurice Jones-Drew, I think, did a draft, and he had like one of the top tackles fallen to us because everybody went quarterback happy on the top of his draft. And that's what will happen. You get 3 quarterbacks getting taken in the top 15, somebody's dropping, and somebody great is dropping at 20.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good stuff, my man. Wow. The Steelers they're setting up for the future. They're setting up for the future. Okay. We're going to jump into some fun now as we close out this episode of Gridiron Icon. We're not going to do a 2-minute drill yet, but I'm going to hit you with some power questions.
Cool.
I mean, you can only hit the guy who hosts the Steeler Nation podcast with this stuff. And man, are you going to be on the spot? Are you ready? Oh my God.
All right, I'm ready.
Steeler Nation's going to be watching you, and they're going to think that here comes the disagreement, the tomatoes, the beer bottles. Okay. Right. Had to do it to you. Start, bench, or cut.
Okay.
I love this. Tommy Maddox, Cordell Stewart, Neil O'Donnell.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Isn't that great?
You're going hardcore. And this is great. This is like, these are our top second-tier quarterbacks of all time.
Absolutely. No Bubby Brister. No Bubby Brister.
Yeah, he's 13. Malone. Yeah, no, Tom Malone. Zach. No, we're not getting into those guys. Miller. Yeah, we're going to stick here with Tommy Maddox, Cordell Stewart, Neil O'Donnell. Start, bench, or cut. Now, back in their heyday, if I was going to say for career, for what they were, I would have gone like Neil O'Donnell start, bench Cordell, because I loved him coming off the bench in that slash role, I had to cut Tommy Maddox. But in today's NFL, my starter is Cordell Stewart. I want that more mobile quarterback. I want that quarterback that we'd actually create a system that fit his skill set, as opposed to trying to force him into being a pocket passer when he still holds 2 of the all-time longest runs by an NFL quarterback. He ripped off an 80-yarder against Baltimore once and a 70-some-yarder. I mean, this is a guy that I keep reminding Baltimore fans. They're like, oh, did you see that great 50-yard run by Lamar Jackson? That guy's incredible. I was like, congratulations, you guys finally got your Cordell Stewart. Yeah. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, he starts ripping off an 80-yarder. We can start talking about being as good as Cordell Stewart. But yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Wait a minute. A Steelers guy ripping Baltimore and Cleveland. Is this in Cincinnati? We even got a Montez Perfect. I mean,
right?
Is this happening? Oh,
I'm an equal opportunity destroyer of all of my enemies.
Love it, man. I was so tempted to go running back, fullbacks here, but I'm not gonna.
Okay,
I'm gonna make it even harder.
Okay.
Start, bench, or cut. Jack Ham, Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green. Brutal.
This is
brutal. We'll take whoever you cut, by the way.
Yeah, I am just glad that that Lambert isn't on that list. But I erased it. Like, people,
I went outside guys.
And this is the thing, like, Ham made the Hall of Fame, and he's like forgotten. So he's forgotten as a Steeler. To tell you the truth, like the Steeler Nation, when they're talking about their linebackers, we always usually shoot to the outside linebackers and the big playmakers like the Lloyds and the Greens, who played together, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I've seen all of them play. I think Jack Ham was probably he didn't have a deficiency in his game. The guy was the most solid.
He was
heavy hitting linebacker ever, ever. Greg Lloyd was the single scariest, biggest playmaking linebacker I had ever seen. Like, people just didn't want to go up against him. If you got tackled, you were going to lose the football, if not your life, when this guy hit you. And then Kevin Green coming off the other side with that flowing blonde hair. Out of these picks, they surprise you. I'd actually start Greg Lloyd.
That doesn't shock me one bit.
I would bench Jack Ham because I'd have to have him. I can't get rid of him, and I'd have to cut Kevin Green. And I hate to do that because the guy was also a Ram.
My God, of course. That's why I threw him in there. This will be good.
Doing that, yeah, because he's a Hall of Famer as well. I mean, but him going off to coach for Green Bay and then winning the Super Bowl against them, he's cut.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. You got to find a reason. You got to find.
Get him out of here.
I hated that he went to you guys. So trust me.
Oh gosh.
I'm bitter.
Yeah.
Oh God, is that a tough one? I mean, yeah, Jack Ham, prototype. There's 2 guys in NFL history I look at and go, they're like the poster child of how you play their positions.
Yep.
Jack Ham at linebacker. He just did everything well.
Perfectly.
And Mike Haynes, corner for the Raiders.
Oh,
he just did everything. He just erased the field. You're like, he didn't do anything special. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you notice any footballs going that way?
Never.
Nope, me neither.
They went to Lester Hayes, who
Right?
picked everything off. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to hit you with some good ones. Your favorite all-time Steeler. Oh, you're going to make friends and enemies here.
Yeah, no. I was actually, like I said, I grew up a little later. I didn't hit my groove for being a Steeler fan until the mid to late 80s, and that became my number one all-time Steeler fan. Is actually an all-around player, not a wide receiver, not Hines Ward, who was like one of my all-time favorite, but my all-time favorite Steeler ever is actually Rod Woodson. And because that guy could play, he was an Olympic athlete. He was the fastest man on the field. He could tackle as hard as anybody, any linebacker on that team, and force fumbles, as well as pick off any ball thrown his way and turn it around back to the house. And then he was back out on the field for kick and punt return. I mean, and then every once in a while, he'd come into the field for a wide receiver play, end around. Yeah. Passes down the field. I mean, this guy was the best all-around athlete I have ever seen in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey and in the NFL. Like, this is a guy like Jim Thorpe. This is a guy that can play any freaking position on the field and excel at it. And it was just such a joy watching him play. And then I still enjoyed, like, he was able to transition his career down the line, go from corner, move to free safety, and become an epic free safety as well. Win a Super Bowl with the Ravens, even though they're a rival. I did root for him to win a Super Bowl because it just couldn't happen to a better player, and he deserved to be a champion.
God, great out of nowhere choice, man. Yeah, the thing about Woodson too is not only is he just freaking amazing, why has he also got to be so good looking? Like,
right?
I mean, I watched that guy in a uniform, you know, like the guys who put on a uniform and they're like, they look like a model in a football uniform.
Right.
That was Rod Woodson. I'm like, God, he's faster, better than it. Sick man. Okay.
Yep. You mix the races, you get beautiful babies.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you do. Very handsome, very handsome kids. Unbelievable. Okay. Most underrated Steeler of all time, in your opinion. Underrated. I'm curious here.
We've got a couple. One of my favorite underrated Steelers of all time would have to be Merrill Hodge. That's a guy just like
collar.
Yeah, he was Pittsburgh through and through. He was a fullback. He'd throw his head in there and do everything. And then he became our leading rusher when like players like Tim Worley didn't pan out when we drafted him right after Barry Sanders got drafted. We expected to have our Barry Sanders guy there with Tim Worley in the top 10, but nope. It ended up being Merrill Hodge being our guy that toted the rock, did it well. And we won a playoff game there with Bubby Brister when Merrill Hodge was our feature back, actually, by default. And really underrated guy. I mean, obviously on defense, it's Aaron Smith is a guy that people always forget about. And that is a guy that just owned the defensive line. If you listen to interviews from, the head coach in frickin' New England. Why am I drawing a blank? Belichick. He was like, which Pittsburgh Steeler did you always have the most trouble game planning against? He's like, no question, it was Aaron Smith. He's like, the guy was a perfect player. He never made. He was technically perfect. Never made a mistake. He was one of those. He was one of the first 3-4 outside players to get double-digit sacks for the Steelers. Usually would average about 7, 8, 9 sacks a season. Just completely disruptive, making big plays in the backfield in the running game as well. You had to move around that guy, and he was. And he'll never be called for the Hall of Fame, even though unless you're a technician of the game, a student of the game, you would not understand how good a player like Aaron Smith was.
God, I love that answer, man. You shocked me there, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things about this podcast is people like yourself, whether it's media or a player or a coach. I always ask that question, and the answer always makes me go, yeah.
Right.
Like, very cool answer. Like, I'd forgotten. Good stuff, man. Okay, last one, then we'll go into our 2-minute drill to close.
Okay.
Uniforms. You can only pick one, my man.
Okay.
The 1934 Bumblebee.
Okay.
The Batman style of 66, 67, if you remember those.
Yeah.
Or the 2007 75th anniversary unis.
For me, the 75th anniversary, I do have a Rod Woodson signed 75th anniversary jersey. And it's to put a mental picture in all of your heads, Steeler Nation, Rams Nation. The vertical stripes do not belong on any football jersey.
So
they look like referee jerseys, like black and yellow referee jerseys, but still they're iconic and just the way they just set off. Now, you say Batman style, and that's more recent way to describing what is known as the triangle jersey.
Oh, is that what they call it? Okay.
And the reason why it was that shape, it came down from the shoulders down to
Yep.
a triangle in the front and in the back, which they put the name on the nameplate behind. And it was to represent the three rivers and that triangle delta area where the stadium was. So that's like the bringing it all together for the three rivers, the triangle. Those are called the triangle jerseys, or as I like to always refer to them, as the inverse Star Trek Next Generation jerseys, because Star Trek always had like the deep black V here with the gold underneath, where we had the big gold V with the black underneath. So it's like Geordie LaForge out there playing football. Those are atrocious jerseys. I know, there's no two ways about it. I don't think I've ever seen a good triangle Batman jersey at all. Though I do like the Gotham style jerseys. Have you ever seen those made from the Batman movie where with Bane, where Hines Ward's running the kickoff back for the touchdown and the stadium's exploding? I love the Gotham jerseys from the Batman movie. So don't get that confused with what we're calling a Batman jersey, which is actually the 67 triangle jerseys. So to go to it, my favorite now that I've eliminated those two has got to be the Bumblebee jersey. And I just love the fact, like, all the memes when it first came out were going to like Blind Melon and the Rain videos with that little girl in her tutu with the Bumblebee outfit on.
90s grunge reference.
Exactly.
I love it.
That's my wheelhouse, man. And then it's like, I can put this outfit together because they have khaki pants. So just throw on a pair of khaki shorts and striped socks, and bam, you are right back in the 1930s in the Bumblebee jerseys. Throw on my leather helmet up here just for poops and ha-has, and we're good to go.
Oh my God, man, you made my day. That's hilarious. I love that. Yeah, I can see you now on the cover of a 90s grunge album in that Bumblebee. Oh my God.
Right.
Okay, my man. I could talk. There's not enough time to talk Steelers.
Right.
You know, so I mean, they're one of the big franchises, but we got to move on. So we're going to go into our 2-minute drill so we can get this great man back to doing what he does best in Steelers Nation. The 2-minute drill is all designed to learn about you and how entertaining you are. And for folks
I haven't been entertaining enough. I mean, let's see if we can figure out how entertaining I am now, Stacy.
I mean, come on, you are. And if people haven't been watching Steeler Nation podcast, what's wrong with you? It's a good time. So 2-minute drill, Stryker. Still the coolest name ever. I'm going to hit you with some questions. We'll keep it quick, and then we will say goodbye. Enchiladas or tamales?
I'm going to go enchiladas because I like it a little wetter than drier, if that makes any sense.
He doesn't like that corn husk thing going on.
Yeah. It's a little dry to me, but I like it nice. It's like a burrito soup.
Okay. There's no wrong answer on that one.
No, there isn't.
There just isn't. Okay, game day beverage, watching a Steelers game.
Well, it used to be like, I used to do a lot of drinking. It used to be Iron City or craft beer. But now that I've given up my drinking, it's kind of moved to like either an energy drink, like a Rockstar or a Mountain Dew. It's kind of like what I'm doing now.
I love it. Give up the alcohol, but Mountain Dew and an energy drink. We go with a healthy alternative.
I know. So I'm drinking my like fruit punch Rockstar all. My
Guilty
second one of the
charged.
day. Yeah, you wonder where I get my energy from. It's canned.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, like you need an energy drink. Subject for another show. I love that.
Not really.
Okay, here's a tough one: cats or dogs?
Why not both?
Oh,
I mean,
right on the fence.
I just got a dog. Like I'm a cat. Don't get me wrong. You see my cat statues and stuff up here behind me too. My cat jumping on my lap on and off. I love the chill nature of a cat. I can just chill out with a cat. But if I want to go out and do something, I want to go out and have some fun outside, I'm taking the dog with me. So like, yeah, I'm a cat guy at heart, but like the dog part is really starting to grow on me because she's approaching 2 years old now. I got a Wiesla. They're these the little brown Austrian hunting dogs, and they're great dogs. Absolutely great dogs. They look like tiny Weimaraners. You know those gray Weimaraner dogs? They're smaller and brown. They look exactly like a Weimaraner.
They keep us active. That's the greatest thing about dogs. We don't deserve them. But I tend to be a cat guy too. I like to lounge around, get a little love, then be left alone. Too. That's a cat, right?
Yes, it is.
This one may not matter to you at all. Xbox, PlayStation, PC, or who cares?
I used to be like, I grew up in the ColecoVision Atari phase. So, back in the day, like back when it was like in television, Atari, ColecoVision, a ColecoVision guy, like through and through. I was like, they got colors, they've got music. This is amazing stuff. It's like, did you just hear the soundtrack on the third stage of a freaking Mousetrap? I mean, shit. It's like down the road, you've got like Incubus covering it, and their songs.
Oh, Incubus reference.
It sounds like Incubus. It's like me in outer space. Why are they playing the Mousetrap song? It's like
I love me some Incubus, man.
Right? Yeah, my main, like you're learning, my brain is all loose associations of the entire world. So
it's why you're a podcaster, man.
Exactly. And this is like, I used to be addicted to video games. I couldn't leave video games. I've been off of video games now for about 15 years, but my games of choice was always Xbox. I mean, I was an Xbox guy, playing my Halo back when that first came out, going through like the Rockstar games as well, with a different company called Rockstar, with the Grand Theft Autos and the Red Dead Redemptions. I mean, fantastic games.
You know, you are crushing our self-esteem. You're making a lot of us feel bad about ourselves. He lost the alcohol, went tamer. He's losing video games, and he's taking up running with the dog. Dude, I'm feeling bad about myself at this point.
Look, we haven't even gotten into that. I still play competitive hockey and any of that stuff yet.
For another show.
Yeah, right. We'll talk about that next show.
And you still got your teeth. You can still smile. That's good
That
stuff.
is true. They're all still real. That's because I'm a goalie. I wear a face mask. I'm not dumb like the skaters.
I love it, man. I love it. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
To close your guest appearance on Gridiron Icon. You're drafted by the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
What position are you playing, and what's your number, man?
Wide receiver. You and I are both wide receiver guys. I played it all through high school. Played it in college, though. My college team, I went to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. We did not have a football team, but what I did was I played flag in the highest level that we had. And we were playing up against, the varsity teams, like the baseball team would have a team, the track team had a team, and we won it all. And funny enough, on that team, I actually played center. Because centers, any player was eligible. You couldn't line up anybody over center. I was getting a free release every play, and they always put a linebacker on me as opposed to a cornerback on me. And I was blowing them up. Because I'm doing like stutter steps on a linebacker. And if somebody tries to hit me, like I got hit once coming off the line of scrimmage, I'm like, you're not allowed to hit the center coming off the line of scrimmage. He's like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah. So I came up like I was in high school, hitting a blocking sled, and I went, bam, he went to the ground. I turned, took the football for a touchdown. I was like, you want to keep lining up on me? I'll keep doing that to you.
I got to tell you, man, you're fitting the bill. Name is Stryker, plays hockey, quick release, no bump and run. Oh, dude, we're learning about you. We are learning about the host of Steeler Nation.
Right. But my number would be 80. You asked about the number. And 80 had two reasons. And it was, number one, when I picked that number in high school, it was the age of my grandmother when I started playing football. Nice. And my grandmother helped raise me. I'd name my daughter after her. Name's Viola.
I love that. Right.
And the second reason was we were also a red and white team. My favorite wide receiver at the time was another number 80, best player and wide receiver in NFL history, Jerry Rice.
Yeah, I saw that argument today on social media again. I was like, are you serious? Are we still arguing about that one?
There's no argument.
Come on, look at the books.
Yeah, this guy was ahead of the game, and like we haven't seen anybody like him yet.
Yeah.
We got close. Antonio Brown's numbers were within range of Jerry Rice's numbers before he went mental.
Yeah.
And if Antonio Brown didn't go mental, he would be right up there putting up the numbers and competing with all-time numbers like Jerry Rice. He's the only player to ever be that way.
Yeah.
That's insane.
We need to do a show on Antonio Brown at some point, but I'll tell you what, I love the number choice. I love that Stryker, after hockey and some collisions on the football field, comes back with a feel-good story with grandma and naming your daughter. Good stuff, man. That's what football and family's all about. Can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you coming on here. Love your podcast. Folks, if you want to follow Stryker, it is not difficult to do. And if you're a Steelers fan, you should be doing it. Follow him at SteelerNation.com. He's the host of the Steeler Nation podcast. You can find him in all the usual spots, Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Great live streams where the audience gets involved. And of course, on Twitter, his handle is @_SN podcast.
Yes.
Any other spots we can find you?
Yeah, we're also on Instagram, Steeler Nation Podcast, and my personal is at SN Stryker for Steeler Nation Stryker, spelled with the Y like it is right here, Stryker.
Damn you with that name. God, that's the name that's made for this. Okay, I got to rename myself after spending time with you. Self-esteem between the video game, off the booze, and the cool name. I have got to reevaluate my life, man.
Okay, I'm going with you. I'm going old school video game, not super old school, but one of my favorite video games of all time. If you're looking for a nickname, I'd suggest Bomberman for the Bowman.
What?
We go Bomberman. Bomberman and Stryker coming to you live.
Just gave me goosebumps. In junior high, they called me Bomber.
Yes.
I mean, wow.
Yeah. I mean, Boomer would be the easier way to go, but honestly, I think Bomber's a stronger name, and it fits your voice, your booming voice, and
oh boy,
you're dropping the bombs, man.
It's not like a bomb's been on this face, right?
Right. We got face made for radio. That's
amen, brother. Thank you so much, my friend. This has been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to hold you to coming on here again as we get closer to the season.
Love to.
And folks, follow Stryker, Steeler Nation Podcast. Not hard to find. Thank you, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Next time, we're going to drop in some 90s music references and have a really good time.
You mean more of them?
More of them. We're going to talk bands outside of, we're going to talk about that grunge scene.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you soon.
All right. See ya.